Welcome to episode 49 of Out of Bounds, a podcast where I give my social commentary on different topics in today's society. I'm your host, Terry, and today going to talk about a personal story. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but a personal situation that I think really could be a good teaching moment, and I really want to use it as something constructive. The title is somewhere along the lines of being a man is a problem in 2019, something like that. And I've talked many times about my thoughts about feminist and masculinist male empowerment. I've talked many times about the outrage culture, the call out culture, moral grandstanding, people looking for moral high ground. And I talked about the hypocrisy of a lot of quote unquote woke and social justice people. So, all that is something you could check back on, but this is all coming together as a crystallizing moment. So, without going into too much detail, basically what happened was there's a group of people that felt the need to check in with someone that I'm, pretty cool with, to make sure that that person felt comfortable or safe being around me alone, or, either that's hanging out, walking home, whatever it is. Now, these are people that don't know me. You know what I mean? People that aren't close to me, that have not taken the time to converse with me extensively, people that have not taken the time to really know me. And so, despite that, they felt it was necessary to ensure the safety of the people that I'm hanging around. So there's a lot of layers to this. There's a ton of layers that intersect, as we love to talk about intersectionality and intersectional. So, but I would say overall, it was something that definitely did and continues to frustrate me and upset me. Let me rewind you back. These are things that I've mentioned before, but I'll mention again. This fear was installed in me pretty early on. I was a resident assistant at the college I attended for 3 years. And so resident assistant, someone that lives in the residence halls of the dorms and takes care of the floor, basically. Anyway, during our training, way back then, because, that was a while ago, almost 10 years ago, but we always had a sexual harassment and sexual assault training as part of our whole thing. And so it was the same one every year, but I remember the first year really struck me. This lady kind of, same thing. She was just like, ladies, look to the left, look to the right. One of those guys statistically will assault you, blah, blah, blah. And just all is very, leaning towards women. Okay, fine, whatever. And then we start getting into the question of consent and drunk. And this is almost 10 years ago. This is before the whole Me Too stuff. And so we started talking about that. And somebody was like, well, what if both people just get drunk and end up hooking up? The man raped her because the man penetrated. And we're just like, what? Is rape on the man if both people got drunk and decided to have sex? Okay, cool. So like stuff like that. And then in general, just at the school I'm at, for whatever reason, it's cool to try to like get the RA in trouble. But back then the technology wasn't as good. But you had some people taking pictures of people. Cameras weren't as good. But if you could get a good picture, oh, this RA's out drinking. Oh, this RA is underage. Or this RA's partying with their residents, or whatever it is, you could get in trouble. And now you fast forward to today where everything's a retaliation. You talk about revenge porn. You talk about all these different things. And so I would be scared to be an RA today. But anyway, it existed back then. So back then, I understood I can't put myself in those situations. As much as I'm going to miss out, I can't put myself in those situations. And I didn't. And I missed out on a lot in my undergrad college career. But I understood that for me personally, that money meant a lot. I had to be a RA. I wasn't going to be in college. A whole different story. And so I learned to take myself away from those situations. That's number one. Number two, one of the things I talk about being at a predominantly white institute of PWI, there is that stigma of, color. And so one thing I realized, since my residence hall was one of the furthest on campus, every time I went out or did something, I had to walk back home. And every time you walk in late at night, if there was a European Caucasian girl walking the same side of the street as me, always cross the street. So when I talk about being African American at a PWI, that's one of the first things I talk about. They always cross the street. And at first, it was the whole man versus woman thing. I'm just like, okay, I get it. Like, it's late at night. They might have a rape whistle, might have a pepper spray. I get it. I can understand trying to be safe. Coming from Chicago, I understand. But then I started to realize, like, whenever it was an African American woman or African woman, they didn't do that to me. Or if it was a Caucasian dude, depending on like how he was built, but for the most part, they didn't cross the street when they saw them. And so I realized, like, it wasn't just a man-woman thing, it was also a race thing. So there's that. And I started to understand that, look, and as I saw guys that I knew for a fact were innocent get taken down, and again, this is years ago, I was like, I need to stay away from this, because look, I could walk past a girl and she, can feel uncomfortable by the way I'm dressed, by the way I'm looking, by the way I'm walking, by my body presence, and claim something happened, even though nothing happened to me or no physical altercation happened. And all of a sudden, it's her word against mine and I'm in trouble. And now we fast forward to 2019, that's amplified by 100. It's believe women, whatever they say. And there's statistics and all that. And I want to recognize that there's definitely a lot of terrible things happening with toxic masculinity in men. There's a lot of that. And I've talked about that before. But at the same time, there does not mean you get to dismiss the other argument. So I have conversations, and some people say, I'm not worried about the few people that are falsely accused when there's so many people that are actually victimized. Well, I would say if we got to a place where we fixed it and there was one rape a year on campus, would you say, okay, we're good? Or would you say, no, one rape is too many? I'm pretty sure you would say it's too many. So for me, one false accusation is too many. I don't think we get to dismiss the conversation. And so it's very real. And so now you had a point where you have a young man, 21, 22 years old, terrified at night, because I knew my college was riding on the ability to be a RA and to have this pay for my college. I knew that being an RA rode on the credibility of my reputation. And I knew that at any moment that reputation would be threatened by somebody that didn't like me, wanted to retaliate, or misunderstood and felt uncomfortable. And so as a result, like the parties, with the social groups I had, with the different clubs and organizations I was part of, parties, I just didn't do it as much. Going downtown, I just didn't do it as much. It's just because I could not take that risk, because now I'm at a heightened, security. And so that's my undergrad. You fast forward to now, it's the same thing but worse, especially being an older student, especially being a graduate student, all these different things. And so I carry those lessons. And with the Me Too movement and everything, I carry those lessons. I think a lot of people understand and support the ideas behind the Me Too and everything. But as I talked about before, a lot of ways people are going about it is an issue. And so you get to this point where for 100% fact, there is no speculation. I know I didn't do anything. I know I didn't do anything outside of the ordinary that I didn't do with anyone else. You know what I mean? I'm talking about not being alone with someone in a private place. I'm talking about not even, communicating past a certain hour. I'm talking about not approaching people face to face unless there's some other people around. I'm talking about all the stops. And I have to hinder a lot of the things I do in life just to make sure I'm pulling out all the stops not to offend somebody or not to come across threatening. And for me to do all of that and to still have someone call into question my character, to call into question my actions, when they don't even know me, but feel the need to call into question. So there's two things to talk about. Number one, how do you think that makes me feel? Without to be on the soapbox, how do you think that makes me or anyone else feel? When you have someone very conscious of the issues, very conscious of my actions, very understanding of what to do and where to step, what eggshells to avoid, not to come across that way, that wants to be an ally, that also wants to support and to really just understand and connect with people. Whether it's a conversation, whether it's helping somebody out, whatever. And to think that all of those things still result in me being questioned as somebody that might hurt somebody, that might harm somebody, that might rape somebody. How do you think it feels? How do you think it felt as a young 20-something-year-old watching people cross the street every time they came through your path? Every time they saw you, they looked down. Every time you came their way, they wanted to go the other way. How do you think that makes you feel? It makes you feel like a weapon. It makes you feel like a monster. Because at the end of the day, the people that wanted to accuse or have an issue with me, that I can 100% say never conversated with me, never talked to me about any issues, never got to know me, what are they basing it on? Now, I'm a big dude. I'm not going to sit here and say my weight, but I'm a big dude. And I carry it well, but I'm a big dude. I'm not super tall or anything, but I'm a big dude. I'm a football player build. I've been stout my whole life. Guess what? I've been African American my whole life. My skin's been dark my whole life. I don't get to choose that. And that's who I am. And so if you sit here and you tell me, I think you might be in danger of Terry. I think there might be a problem with Terry being around you, but you don't have any evidence or any knowledge of Terry being a problem. My only assumption, my only conclusion is that you arrived to that decision by looking at me. That's a big black dude. You might not want to walk along with him. You might not want to go over to his apartment. You might not want to talk to him in a private area. And again, no history, no record of any wrongdoing. And honestly, me and my friend and the other people that I've hung out with as well, we do regular things. I'm not going to get into our business, but we do just regular things that anybody else would do. They hang out. We have a good time. They go home. That's it. And so for somebody that doesn't even know us to sit there and try to insinuate something like that, that's the hypocrisy, because we talk so much in social justice about accepting, being open-minded, about looking past the surface, about not judging a book by its character or a book by its cover, by judging people by their character, by people being more than just what's on the surface. And yet the people that do the most finger pointing are these people that are quote unquote woke. Now, I'm not going to rage against these people. I understand that there's an accumulation effect, there's a compounded effect of all these things happening. It's not this one issue that really irks me. It's everything added up together. But at the same time, I will recognize that that's an accumulation of their experiences, whether they be terrible, hurtful, mild, or otherwise. The way you see the world is based on how you went through the world. And they went through the world and they've had issues with whatever, whether it be other black men, black people, whether it be men in general, whatever it is. They went through the world looking at it one way. We're feminists, we're doing this, we look at it this way. But the rhetoric, despite the rhetoric of we want equality, feminist just means equality. The fact is, a lot of people are anti-male. And so you might think, oh, it's easy to roll people into one group. You're a man, you got privilege, we don't care. Okay, boo-hoo that you have to go through this or that. I would say as a human, nobody should have to contemplate every single action they do to make sure they're not harming somebody else. And so as a result, that's what it is. I mean, you had me as an undergrad thinking about every step I took. Now as an older man also having to think about that. But now on top of that, I don't want to converse. I don't want to interact with other people in my cohort of graduates, because who else is going to take offense? Who else is going to jump to a conclusion? Who else is going to see the world the way they want to see it without any evidence, without any knowledge, without any information? Because you felt the point to go past me, to go to somebody that's cool with me, and to express your concern, all based on something that's not even true, that I can factually prove is not true. But you felt it so strongly about your opinion that you went and did it anyway. So who else is going to do that? Why would I ever put myself in that situation? It's nice to say what should happen, but I'm on what if this happens? I'm on the if factor. And so now I'm not going to talk to other people. I'm not going to extend the olive branch. I'm not going to go out there and do those things. I'm going to stay to myself, and I'm going to stay to the people that I know I can trust. And so now you have a point where you go through life having to be, half cocked and scared because of all the conversations and all the misinformation going around. And I don't see how that's progress. Progress to me is coming to my face with integrity. It's not the man way. It's not the woman way. It's being grown. Come to my face with integrity. I noticed this. This makes me think this. Is that correct? I feel this because you did this, because you said this. Whatever it may be, come to my face and work that out with me, adult to adult. But no, that's not social justice. That's the hypocrites. We're going to just condemn you because we think you did this, or we think you are like this. And it's absolutely ridiculous. And so in 2019 and going forward, unfortunately, the situation right now is that you are guilty just by being a man. Just because you are a man, you are a threat. If I get robbed by a Chinese person, by a Filipino person, by an Irish person, whatever, does that now make every single person a threat? Every single person in that category is a threat or a robber. We had the same conversation with Liam Neeson not too long ago, where he talked about somebody assaulting his friend that was black. Now all black people are like that, but then he had to grow up and realize that wasn't true. But you don't have people growing up right now. So I'm wrong if I say, okay, this woman cheated on me. All women are cheaters. All women are no good. They're not loyal. They're cheaters, and I'm going to treat them as such. That's a problem. But when you can go through an issue as a woman and say, okay, all men are now a threat, that's fine. And we're going to treat them as such. and no one bats an eye. That's an issue. So anyway, I've talked long enough. That's where I'm at with it. And this just solidifies my own philosophy that this is something to rally against. This isn't a woman versus man thing where one should be better. This is about equality for me, true equality. And historical context does not get to erode equality. So that's where I'm at. Anyway, go to the comment section. Let me know what you think. Share it around. Get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe. And until next episode.